We're all stupid. We're all going to die. On This Week with Stupid, we have Ted Cruz feuds with Hellboy. AMC movie theater reopens. China manufacturing boycott China items. Ohio State Senator blames pandemic on colored people. And finally, eBay's top executives charged with leading a cyberstalking campaign. That one is just crazy. At the end, I promise I will have something to cheer you up a little bit. So without further ado, Ted Cruz feuds with Hellboy Ron Perlman. So this saga started with like any recent saga does, over a Twitter feud between Hellboy Ron Perlman and Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz on Sunday after US Soccer voted to allow kneeling during the national anthem. I'd rather the US not have soccer team than have a soccer team that won't stand for the national anthem, Gaetz tweeted. You shouldn't get to play under our flag as our national team if you won't stand when it is raised. To which Perlman wrote, the US soccer team called and you guessed it, said they couldn't give any less of a F about what you two dipshit think, tagging both Gaetz and President Trump. At this point, Gaetz couldn't help himself and had to respond. He called out Perlman as a hypocrite for playing a character in a TV series. He wrote, this racial justice warrior had no problem in Hollywood portraying the white supremacistic leader in a motorcycle gang, SOA, presumably referring to Perlman's portrayal of Clay in the fictional television series Sons of Anarchy. Yes sir, so true, Perlman quickly fired back on Twitter. So rewarding, playing a-holes on TV. Tell me sir, how's it actually being one? Oh snap. He is Hellboy. Perlman then tweeted a picture of Republican Representative Jim Jordan, who also expressed outrage at the US soccer team's decision, with the accompanying tweet, P.S. You're lucky for this guy, Matt. If it weren't for him, you'd be the ugliest politician walking. This appeared to be the end of argument between Gaetz, but Texas Senator Ted Cruz waded in, offering to bet $10,000 that Jim Jordan could beat Perlman in the wrestling ring. Ted Cruz wrote, listen Hellboy, you talk good game when you have got Hollywood makeup and stuntman, but I will bet $10,000 to the non-political charity of your choice that you couldn't last 5 minutes in the wrestling ring with Jim Jordan without getting pinned. You up for it? Or does your publicist say too risky? Perlman replied to the challenge with, wait, is this the Ted Cruz? Holy shit, man. Is this the same guy let little Donnie call his wife a dog and his father an assassin and now kisses his ass? Yo, can I get your autograph, man? Followed by, I tell you what, Teddy boy, since mentioning Jim Jordan and wrestling is problematic, why don't we say F him and just make it you and me? I'll give $50,000 to Black Lives Matter and you can keep all the taxpayer money you were thinking of spending. A bit back and forth where it became painful to watch Ted Cruz pushing the fight with Jim Jordan more and more. I get it, you're rich, but apparently soft. You sure seem scared to wrestle Jordan, whom you keep insulting. Can't take the hit? Need to get a manicure? Ted fired back. Eventually, it died down. Just in case you are wondering, Perlman was alluding to the fact that there had been many allegations against Jim Jordan facilitating sexual abuse when he was assistant wrestling coach at Ohio State. So it was stupid for Ted Cruz to, number 1, bring up Jim Jordan and wrestling. Don't go and Google it. And 2, I mean, Hellboy is in great shape, but he is over 70. Why would you challenge a 70 years old to wrestling match against a 56 years old? Have you ever seen old guys wrestle? Not a fun sight. They can't take a bump. Next, AMC movie theater reopens. So, I am a Karen. Yes, men can be Karen just as well. Equal rights and all. The company is expected to resume operation in 450 of locations on July 15th and expects to be almost fully operational by the time that Disney's Mulan debuts on July 24th. AMC will not mandate that all guests wear masks, although employees will be required to do so. Nor will AMC perform temperature checks on customers, though it will monitor its employees' temperatures and have them undergo screening to check for signs of coronavirus. "We did not want to be drawn into a political controversy," said Aaron. "We thought it might be counterproductive if we forced mask wearing on those people who believe strongly that it is not necessary." With this release, the internet exploded. Bunch of people took onto Twitter to voice their concern and displeasure. They were called Karen by various outlets, and I have to admit, I'm one of those Karens. Though I didn't get on Twitter to vent, just because I've been venting in my YouTube videos about COVID-19 and people's nonchalant approach to it. There are several videos on my channel where I explain the risk and severity of this virus and what we can do as a society. A very brief summary would be, a surgical mask is to stop oneself from infecting others. As we know from the long incubation period that I might have the virus right now and not realize. It's as simple as that. It's about caring for other people. And instead of getting drawn in political controversy, they decided to draw a line in the sand instead. Thankfully, all the outcry forced AMC to change its tune. On June 19th, AMC released a statement saying, "This announcement prompted an intense and immediate outcry from our customers, and it is clear from this response that we did not go far enough on the usage of masks. At AMC Theatres, we think it is absolutely crucial that we listen to our guests. Accordingly, and with the full support of our scientific advisors, we are reversing course and are changing our guest mask policy. As we reopen theaters, we now will require that all AMC guests nationwide wear masks as they enter and enjoy movies at our theaters. The speed with which AMC moved to revise our mask policies is a reflection of our commitment to the safety and health of our guests." India is angry after bloody clash on June 15th between Indian and Chinese troops at Galwan. Across the country, there are calls to boycott Chinese products and halt bilateral trade, with people burning Chinese appliances and goods, and a union minister even wanting a ban on restaurants selling Chinese food. Indian officials plan to raise import duties on around 300 Chinese products as protests break around the country. Apart from India, Philippines and Vietnam have also called for a boycott on Chinese goods, as have separatist movement in China itself. In UK, a group of lawyers and activists submitted a 60-page document urging the UK government to ban the import of all cotton from Xinjiang over concerns of forced labor regime in the province. United States had called for economic boycott of China over the years due to various issues such as human rights violation, conflicts with Hong Kong and Taiwan, and persecutions of the religious in China. In 2019, the Federal Communication Commission placed China-based telecommunication equipment companies Huawei and ZTE on blacklist citing national security risk. So with all the talks of boycotts, I will not discuss the logistics of such proposals. As I look around my room, I see most of the stuffs are made in China, and I live in bloody UK. I will not talk about how people will not be willing to pay a lot more for items. Instead, China has started producing boycott China caps and t-shirts as they anticipate a big sale boost in India. China and India have sent their army men to their borders, and the tension seems to be at its peak. China is also forecasting a huge boycott China campaign, which means millions of Indians will be buying the caps and t-shirts for this campaign. Hence, China decided to produce these things themselves to get the maximum profit from the market, which is trying to boycott them. China will soon start delivering the caps and t-shirts in India to become a part of this campaign just to reap the profit. This campaign has given a new hope to the small Chinese manufacturers of caps and shirts who were impacted by the coronavirus lockdown. Indians have already started purchasing the t-shirts and caps that were made in China already. Not to mention that OnePlus 8 Pro was sold out within minutes of going on sale on Thursday on e-commerce portal Amazon India. Well, geeks going to geek and stupid will be stupid. Ohio State Senator blames coronavirus pandemic on colored people not washing their hands. GOP lawmakers suggest Black Americans are to blame for being hit hard by virus. GOP Ohio lawmaker, African Americans or colored population get coronavirus because they do not wash their hands as well as other groups. Oh, how scandalous. How can someone say something like that? Let's dig into it. According to the Columbus Dispatch, State Senator Steve Hoffman, who's white, made the offending comments during a committee hearing on Tuesday while questioning Angela Dawson, the executive director of the Ohio Commission on Minority Health and a black woman. I understand that African Americans have a higher incidence of prior conditions, and that makes them more susceptible to COVID. But does not make them more susceptible just to get COVID? Huffman himself, a doctor from suburban Dayton, asked. We know it's twice as often, correct? Could it just be that African Americans or the colored population do not wash their hands as well as other groups? Or wear a mask? Or do not socially distance themselves? Could that just be maybe the explanation of why there is a higher incident? I'm going to draw some flags here with my assessment and maybe make an ass out of myself. An opinion piece can be biased, where journalist article, well, I understand it can be very hard to be unbiased at times. But this is not one of those times. I bet the writer of the article was super happy because the speaker was white and the person he was responding to was black. And to top it all that, the speaker was male and he was talking to a woman. It's like Christmas. I'll play the devil's advocate here. Dr. Hoffman asked about 3 different points, and none of those can really be extended to say that he is blaming the colored population. Next, this may shock some of you. People have different culture. Parts of the world uses their hands to eat. I grew up in such part. And then I was shocked to see other parts of the world where they would pick up shared food items like rice or dry entree with their bare hands. In some place, we use toilet paper and freak out when supermarket runs out, where some other places have discovered water. My point is, people formulate different habits from their environment, religion, society, and so on. Some of them do affect our health. I can go on with a lot more examples, but then again, we don't really want an hour video. Back to using our hands to eat. The thing is, you only buy soap once you have got money for a roof, food for your belly, clothes for the weather, and maybe even send your children to school. Do I need to draw a better picture? That is, of course, more applicable to what we call developing countries. In our fancy Western country, we're not like that. The poverty line in the UK is defined as a household income below 60% of the average. Using this definition, there are over 3 million children living in poverty. Shockingly, almost half of these children, 1.4 million, live in families with a household income far below this. Based on a study from 2017, an estimated 39.7 million Americans lived in poverty. From all data, we see this poverty line a lot more predominant in minority group. Next, I would like to point out a couple of religious factors. Some religious people like to pray with other people religiously. I'm talking about places like mosque. I would presume during this pandemic, a lot of these religious people went even more than usual. Not out of any ill will, but based on their belief and hope that God Almighty can stop the pandemic and people from dying. I would like to point out that if such God existed, then isn't he the one to create the virus in the first place? How do you question his wisdom, his divine plan? Are you asking him to do an AMC type thing? I digress. So what point was I making? Oh yes. My dad was a doctor. My mom is a doctor. My sister is a doctor. My grandfather was a doctor. Well, sort of. I have 2 cousins on my dad's side. Oh, I was channeling Aunt May there. For a doctor, it's normal for them to ask a patient about their living conditions, dietary habit, and other activities, as those do affect the disease and the treatment. With all that said, could the senator have asked the question in a more polite way? Of course. It was stupid to ask it that way, and it was even more stupid for all the media outlets to hype it beyond what it was. Just my 2 cents. 6 former eBay employees were charged with leading a cyber-stalking campaign against a newsletter editor and a publisher, which included sending the couples anonymous threatening messages, disturbing deliveries, and conducting covert surveillance of the victims. The US Department of Justice and US Attorney's Office announced. It is alleged that in August 2019, after the newsletter published an article about litigation involving eBay, 2 members of eBay's executive leadership team sent or forwarded text messages suggested that it was time to take down the newsletter's editor. In response, Baugh, Harville, Pop, Gilbert, G, Stockwell, and others allegedly executed a 3-part harassment campaign. Among other things, several of the defendants ordered anonymous and disturbing deliveries to the victim's home. According to the affidavit, Baugh showed a clip from the 1988 movie Johnny Be Good, in which 2 friends arranged for the delivery to their football coach's home of a series of unwanted and distracting items and people, including $283 in pizzas, an elephant, a male stripper, an exterminator, and Hare Krishna missionaries. Baugh stated he wanted something similar to happen to the victims and tasked the eBay's Global Intelligence Center, or GIC for short, members, with brainstorming other things that could be delivered to the victim's home. He also directed the deliveries not be traceable to eBay. At his direction, G and other GIC analysts paid for the deliveries using prepaid debit card and made online orders using anonymous email accounts, virtual private networks, and cell phones and computers specifically purchased for the harassment campaign. So what was in these deliveries? Well, it included preserved fatal pig, a Halloween mask featuring a bloody pig face, a funeral wreath, a book titled Grief Diaries, Surviving the Loss of a Spouse. So a lot of death-themed delivery. Pornography entitled Hustler, Barely Legal, which were sent to their neighbors' homes. I guess that was to shame them. Then they went crazy with fly larvae and live spiders, and a box of cockroaches. Yes, you heard me right, not a box of chocolate. As part of the second phase of the campaign, some of the defendants allegedly sent private Twitter messages and public tweets criticizing the newsletter's content and threatening to visit the victims in Natick. Keeping to the theme, Baugh showed the Leonardo DiCaprio movie Body of Lies to G. In the movie, DiCaprio's character creates a fake terrorist plot that is intended to trick and draw an actual terrorist out of hiding. Baugh stated that this was his current thinking regarding the victims, is a reference to the White Knight strategy. The plan was these messages would become increasingly disturbing, culminating with doxing the victims. From explicit private messages to email with the subject, the Communist Party, the Satanic Temple, and cat fairies, to voicemail message in response to victims' purported interest in opening an Adam and Eve sex toys franchise. After publicly posting the full name and the address in Craigslist, there were various classified ads posting ranging from block party, everything must go, to male-female couple seeking activity partner. People had been arriving at the victim's home looking for a yard sale listed on yardSaleSearch.com. The advertisement on the website reported a week-long tag sale and stated, "We are moving out of the country soon and are trying to get rid of as many of our possessions as possible. If we are not outside, feel free to knock on the door. Maybe we can make a deal if you see something you like." The third phase of the campaign allegedly involved covertly surveilling the victims in their home and community. They allegedly drove to victims' home in Natick, intending at one point to break into the victim's garage and install a GPS tracking device on victim's car, but was spotted. Natick police were notified, who began to investigate. The police learned that G had rented one of the cars used by the defendants and reached out to eBay for assistance. During this surveillance, Bo, Harville and G ate and drank at Boston's Oceanair restaurant, which cost approximately $750. Good Lord Jesus! $250 per head for an evening meal? Really? eBay, if you're listening, I would love an executive job with you guys. You are the best. During the meal, Bo discussed with Harville and G that they would need to start spamming the victims again. Harville proposed delivering chainsaws and human feces to the victims. Bo suggested a dead rat. Aware that the police were investigating, the defendants allegedly sought to interfere with the investigation by lying to the police about eBay's involvement, while pretending to offer the company's assistance with the harassment, as well as by lying to eBay's lawyer about their involvement. As the police and eBay's lawyer continued to investigate, the defendants allegedly deleted digital evidence that showed their involvement, further obstructing what had by them became a federal investigation. Within the affidavit, it mentions two members of eBay leadership team referred to only as Executive 1 and Executive 2. Since the complaint was released, eBay confirmed to Wired that Executive 1 is Devin Wenig, eBay's Chief Executive Officer, while Executive 2 is Steve Weimer, the Chief Communication Officer who was also a Senior Vice President and Chairman of the eBay Foundation. So this thing started all the way at top to harass a couple of journalists. eBay issued a statement saying that it immediately launched a comprehensive investigation upon being notified by law enforcement. As a result of the investigation, eBay terminated all involved employees, including the company's former Chief Communication Officer, in September 2019, eBay said. The charges of conspiracy to commit cyberstalking and conspiracy to tamper with witnesses each carry a sentence up to 5 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release, a fine of up to $250,000, and restitution. Sentences are imposed by a federal district court judge based upon the US sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. I would be keeping my eye on this. So who's stupid? Well, duh. In the last two videos in the series, we have seen chart for coronavirus death in UK. About 1,000 people died last week from this virus, with daily confirmed slightly lower than last week. If this is due to the weather, I hope it stays warm for longer. Maybe we should start looking at new cases chart for the last 1 month. That should give us a better view for future. After all that stupidity, to cheer you up, this week my recommendation is We Live in the Dumbest Timeline. I follow this channel religiously and the series are absolutely hilarious. Check them out, links down in description. Well, that's all for this week with Stupid. Please let me know what your thoughts are, especially regarding the senator's statement in the comments below. If you have liked this content and want to show your support, liking the video would be a great start. And maybe subscribe as well. If you disliked it, please let me know why. Let's talk about it. You'll find similar contents in my other videos. Stay safe. Signing off.